What if I told you the thing you've been praying for, chasing, stressing over, isn't out there somewhere far away, but hidden in a place you've been avoiding your entire life? What if your greatest wealth is buried in the one place you refuse to look? Most people are conditioned to believe that success lives somewhere outside of them. They think it exists in a better job, a better city, more connections, or a lucky opportunity that hasn't arrived yet. So they keep searching, scrolling, comparing, waiting, convinced that one day something external will finally unlock the life they desire. But this belief quietly creates a cycle of dependence, where your future feels tied to circumstances you can't fully control. The truth is far more empowering, and at the same time more uncomfortable. What you are searching for is already within you, but it's hidden beneath layers you've learned to ignore. Inside every person is a unique combination of abilities, perspectives, experiences, and instincts that no one else possesses in the same way. Yet because these qualities feel natural, people tend to dismiss them. What comes easily to you, you assume must be easy for everyone else. What feels ordinary to you might actually be extraordinary in the right context. This is where many people overlook their own wealth. They are looking for something rare and obvious, while ignoring something familiar and subtle. Another reason people miss this inner treasure is self-doubt. Over time, fear of judgment, failure, or rejection begins to silence the voice within. You might have had ideas, ambitions, or talents earlier in life, but slowly you started questioning them. Maybe someone criticized you, maybe you compared yourself to others, or maybe you simply didn't see immediate results. So instead of exploring what's inside, you began looking outward for validation, direction, and permission. Without realizing it, you placed more trust in the world's opinion than in your own potential. But everything begins to shift when you reverse that direction. When you stop asking, "What is out there for me?" and start asking, "What is already within me that I haven't fully used?" you take back control. You begin to notice patterns, things you enjoy, problems you naturally solve, ways you think differently from others. These are not random traits, they are clues. They point toward the value you can create in the world. However, accessing this inner wealth requires honesty. You have to be willing to look at yourself without filters, your strengths, your weaknesses, your habits, and your fears. This isn't always comfortable, which is why many people avoid it. It's easier to stay distracted by external pursuits than to confront what's inside. But the moment you become aware of your internal resources, you start to see opportunities differently. Instead of waiting for doors to open, you begin building your own. It's also important to understand that this inner wealth is not just about talent, it's about mindset. Your ability to stay disciplined, to learn, to adapt, and to persist when things get difficult. These are forms of wealth that shape everything else. Two people can have the same opportunity, but the one who has developed their inner strength will always go further. When you truly accept that what you need is already within you, your perspective changes. You stop chasing and start creating. You stop comparing and start developing. And most importantly, you stop underestimating yourself. The world may offer platforms, tools, and chances, but it is what you carry inside that determines how far you go. There is something almost instinctive about avoiding what feels uncomfortable. The moment fear shows up, most people interpret it as a warning sign to stop, to step back, or to choose an easier path. It feels logical. Why move toward something that creates anxiety, uncertainty, or doubt? But what if that instinct is misleading? What if the very things you're trying to avoid are actually pointing you in the right direction? Think about the moments when you feel the most resistance. It could be starting something new, speaking up, taking a risk, or stepping into a role that feels bigger than you. These moments come with a mix of fear and hesitation, and because they feel unfamiliar, your mind tries to protect you by pulling you away. But that discomfort isn't always danger. It's often growth in disguise. It's the signal that you're stepping beyond what is known and comfortable into something that has the potential to expand your life. The problem is, most people never get close enough to discover what lies on the other side of that discomfort. They retreat too early. They convince themselves they're not ready, not capable, or that the timing isn't right. Over time, this pattern becomes a habit. They start choosing comfort over progress without even realizing it. And while comfort feels safe in the moment, it slowly limits their possibilities. What you avoid doesn't disappear, it waits. That idea you keep putting off, that conversation you're afraid to have, that opportunity you feel unqualified for, they don't lose their importance just because you ignore them. In fact, they often grow in significance. The longer you avoid them, the more power they seem to hold over you. But the truth is, the power isn't in the situation itself, it's in your perception of it. When you finally decide to face what you've been avoiding, something interesting happens. The fear that once felt overwhelming starts to shrink, not because the situation changed, but because you did. You gain clarity, confidence, and experience simply by stepping forward. Even if things don't go perfectly, you learn something valuable, and that learning becomes a stepping stone to something greater. Many breakthroughs don't come from doing what feels easy. They come from doing what feels necessary. The areas where you feel the most discomfort often highlight where you have the most to gain. It might be a skill you need to develop, a mindset you need to shift, or a version of yourself you haven't fully stepped into yet. Avoiding these areas keeps you the same, but confronting them moves you forward. It's also important to recognize that fear often appears when something truly matters. You don't feel anxious about things that are insignificant to you. The presence of fear can actually be an indication that you're close to something meaningful. Instead of asking, "Why am I so afraid of this?" a more powerful question is, "What could this lead to if I move through it?" This doesn't mean you should rush into every uncomfortable situation without thought. It means you should pause long enough to question your instinct to avoid it. Ask yourself whether the discomfort is protecting you from real harm or simply from growth. In many cases, it's the latter. Over time, when you start leaning into discomfort instead of running from it, your entire mindset shifts. You begin to see challenges as opportunities rather than obstacles. You become more resilient, more adaptable, and more confident in your ability to handle whatever comes next. The things you avoid are not random. They are often mirrors, reflecting the parts of your life that are ready to change. And when you choose to face them, you don't just overcome fear, you uncover new possibilities that were always there, waiting for you to step forward. It's natural to question hardship. When things don't go the way you planned, when efforts fail, doors close, or progress feels painfully slow, the first reaction is often frustration. You may wonder why things are so difficult, especially when you're trying to move forward. In those moments, it's easy to believe that challenges are obstacles placed in your way, something unfair or unnecessary. But there is another way to look at it, one that shifts hardship from being a barrier into something purposeful. Growth rarely happens in comfort. When everything is easy, predictable, and convenient, there is little reason to change. You stay within familiar patterns, relying on what you already know. But when challenges appear, they disrupt that comfort. They force you to think differently, act differently, and sometimes even redefine who you are. This is where development begins, not because it feels good, but because it stretches you beyond your current limits. Think about the qualities that truly matter when it comes to success: discipline, patience, resilience, focus, and adaptability. These are not built overnight, and they are not developed in easy situations. They are formed through repeated exposure to difficulty. When you face setbacks, you learn how to persist. When things don't go as expected, you learn how to adjust. When progress is slow, you learn patience. Each challenge carries a lesson, and over time, those lessons shape you into someone stronger and more capable. It's also important to understand that receiving something valuable without being prepared for it can be just as harmful as not receiving it at all. If success arrives before you've developed the ability to manage it, it can quickly fall apart. Many people focus only on the outcome. They want the reward, the recognition, or the financial gain, but they overlook the responsibility that comes with it. Without the right mindset and habits, those rewards are difficult to sustain. This is why challenges can be seen as a form of preparation. They are not there to stop you. They are there to equip you. Each difficulty is refining something within you, your thinking, your behavior, your priorities. Even though the process may feel slow or frustrating, it is building a foundation that can support greater opportunities in the future. Another important aspect of hardship is the clarity it brings. When things are easy, it's simple to stay distracted or unfocused. But when you go through challenges, you start to see what truly matters. You become more intentional with your time, your energy, and your decisions. You learn to separate what is important from what is not. This clarity is valuable because it guides you toward more meaningful progress. It's also worth noting that struggle often reveals strengths you didn't know you had. In difficult situations, you are pushed to find solutions, to keep going even when it's hard, and to trust yourself in new ways. These moments build confidence. Not the kind that comes from external validation, but the kind that comes from knowing you can handle adversity. That confidence becomes a lasting asset, something that stays with you long after the challenge has passed. None of this means that hardship is easy, or that it should be minimized. It can be uncomfortable, exhausting, and at times discouraging. But its presence does not mean something has gone wrong. In many cases, it means something is being built. When you begin to see challenges as preparation rather than punishment, your perspective changes. Instead of resisting them, you start to engage with them differently. You look for the lesson, the opportunity, and the growth within the experience. And as you continue to move forward, you gradually become the kind of person who is not just hoping for success, but fully ready to handle it when it arrives. One of the most common reasons people overlook their own potential is because it feels ordinary to them. The things you are naturally good at, the way you think, the way you solve problems, or even the way you communicate, these feel so familiar that you assume they are nothing special. You live with these abilities every day, so they don't stand out. But what is normal to you can be incredibly valuable to someone else. From an early age, many people are taught to look for what is impressive in a very obvious way: achievements, titles, or talents that receive public recognition. Because of this, quieter or more subtle strengths often go unnoticed. You might be someone who listens deeply, explains things clearly, notices patterns quickly, or stays calm under pressure. These may not always be celebrated in obvious ways, but they are powerful abilities that can create real impact in the right environment. The challenge is that familiarity can lead to underestimation. When something comes easily to you, you tend to assume it must be easy for everyone else. You might even dismiss it as nothing special, or think it's not worth pursuing. But ease is often a sign of alignment. It shows that you are naturally equipped in that area. What takes you little effort might take someone else a significant amount of time and struggle to learn. This is where many people disconnect from their own value. They spend time chasing skills or paths that don't align with their natural strengths, simply because those paths seem more recognized or respected. Meanwhile, the abilities that could truly set them apart are left undeveloped. Over time, this creates frustration, because they are working hard but not seeing the kind of results or fulfillment they expected. Recognizing your own gifts requires a shift in perspective. Instead of asking, "What looks impressive?" a better question is, "What do I do well without forcing it?" Pay attention to the things people naturally come to you for. Notice the tasks that feel engaging rather than draining. Reflect on moments where you solved a problem or helped someone in a way that felt almost effortless. These are not coincidences, they are indicators of your strengths. Another important factor is feedback. Sometimes others can see your value more clearly than you can. When people appreciate something you've done, or point out a quality you have, it's worth taking seriously. Often these observations highlight abilities you've overlooked, simply because you're too close to them. Instead of brushing off compliments, try to understand what they reveal about your capabilities. However, having a gift is only the beginning. Value is created when that gift is developed and applied consistently. Just because something comes naturally, doesn't mean it doesn't need effort. In fact, the combination of natural ability and deliberate practice is what leads to excellence. When you invest time into sharpening your strengths, you begin to turn something ordinary into something exceptional. It's also important to place your gifts in the right context. A skill that seems insignificant in one environment can become highly valuable in another. For example, being able to communicate clearly might not feel like a major strength in casual situations. But in leadership, teaching, or business, it becomes a critical asset. The key is to find where your abilities meet a real need. When you start to recognize and appreciate your own strengths, your confidence grows, not in an exaggerated way, but in a grounded and realistic sense. You begin to trust what you bring to the table. You stop comparing yourself to others, and instead focus on developing what is uniquely yours. What feels normal to you is not necessarily common, and what you've been overlooking might be the very thing that sets you apart. The moment you stop dismissing your natural abilities and start investing in them, you begin to unlock a level of potential that was always there, waiting to be recognized and used. There is a reason why the idea of buried treasure has always captured people's imagination. Treasure, by its very nature, is not placed on the surface where anyone can casually pick it up. It is hidden beneath layers that require effort, patience, and persistence to uncover. In many ways, personal growth and success follow the same principle. The value you are seeking is rarely found in what is easy or immediately accessible. It lies beneath challenges that require you to dig deeper than you initially thought you could. Most people are willing to wish for success, but far fewer are willing to commit to the process required to achieve it. The moment things become difficult, when progress slows down, when results are not immediate, or when failure appears, motivation starts to fade. This is where many stop digging. They assume that because it's hard, it must not be meant for them. But difficulty is not a sign to quit. It is part of the process of uncovering something valuable. Imagine standing on a piece of land that holds great wealth underground. From the surface it looks ordinary. Nothing about it suggests that anything valuable lies beneath. To access what is hidden, you would need to dig. Not just once, but consistently. The soil might be tough, the progress slow, and there may be moments when it feels like nothing is there at all. But the treasure doesn't disappear just because the process is demanding. It remains there, waiting for someone who is willing to continue. This is exactly how growth works. The digging in your life comes in the form of effort, discipline, and resilience. It's the willingness to keep going when things are not convenient. It's showing up even when you don't feel like it. It's learning from mistakes instead of being discouraged by them. These actions may not feel rewarding in the moment, but over time, they create something meaningful. Failure is one of the most misunderstood parts of this process. Many people see failure as proof that they are not capable, when in reality, it is often evidence that they are trying. Every mistake carries information. It shows you what doesn't work, what needs to change, and where you need to improve. If you stop at the first sign of failure, you never get the chance to use that information. But if you keep going, each failure brings you closer to understanding what does work. Fear also plays a major role in stopping people from digging. The fear of not succeeding, of being judged, or of wasting time can feel overwhelming, but avoiding action because of fear guarantees one outcome: no progress at all. Courage doesn't mean the absence of fear, it means choosing to act despite it. Each time you push through fear, you strengthen your ability to handle challenges, making the next step slightly easier. Consistency is what separates those who eventually uncover their treasure from those who don't. It's not about making one big effort and expecting immediate results. It's about small, repeated actions over time. Each step may seem insignificant on its own, but together they create momentum, and momentum, once built, carries you forward even when motivation fluctuates. It's also important to understand that the process of digging changes you. As you persist, you develop patience, focus, and inner strength. You become more capable, more disciplined, and more confident in your ability to handle difficulties. By the time you reach your goal, you are not the same person who started. You are someone who has grown into it. Nothing of real value comes without effort. The depth of the reward is often connected to the depth of the work required to reach it. When you accept that difficulty is part of the journey, you stop resisting it and start working with it. The treasure you are seeking is not out of reach. It is simply beneath the surface, waiting for consistent effort to bring it to light. And the only way to reach it is to keep digging, even when it's hard, even when it's slow, and even when you cannot yet see what lies ahead.